A champion boxer loses his prize money, gets mistaken for being gay by the love of his life, and discovers his only hope of survival against a revenge-seeking killer is learning a legendary kung fu technique that requires getting repeatedly electrocuted. As romantic misunderstandings pile up faster than bodies hit the canvas, Ching must master the mythical electric fist before facing an opponent who's trained for months to destroy him. This is a chaotic love letter to classic kung fu comedy where every explanation makes things worse, every fight scene defies physics, and the final showdown becomes an absurd spectacle of electrical shocks, flaming fists, and a man literally being punched into the street. All while the real battle is convincing the love of his life he's not actually into men. After the tournament, Ching continued competing in boxing matches. His fame grows quickly, and he gains a loyal following. One fan stands out. Ngu Pihu becomes obsessed with him. Meanwhile, his opponent in the tournament, Wei, succumbs to his injuries. Before dying, he warns his brother Wan about Ching's devastating right arm. Wan vows to avenge his brother. During one match, Pai gets into a fight with other spectators and is badly beaten. Medics remove him from the arena and leave briefly to get an ambulance. Left alone, Pai sneaks into the locker room and begins snooping around. Ching later walks in and finds him hiding in a closet. Startled, Ching tries to avoid him and slips. Pai chases after him, slips, and falls on top of him. At that moment, Mandy and Smart enter while keeping fans away. They find the two in a compromising position. Ching explains he does not know the man, but the explanation falls flat. Smart worsens the misunderstanding by joking that Ching has done it to him before. Mandy misreads the scene and storms off, upset. At a restaurant, Ching sits with Kyung and their elderly friends. He suddenly bursts into hysterical laughter. He had just learned that they had lost his 10 million prize money. The laughter masks deep frustration. They apologize and promise to take care of him. Ching reacts in a shocking way. He loses control and humiliates them. Smart soon arrives and questions the chaos. Once he hears about the lost money, he pulls out a gun in anger. The elders scatter in panic. Elsewhere, Pai faces pressure from his aunt, who demands he become useful and marry soon. Looking for direction, Pai decides he wants to learn kung fu under Ching. Meanwhile, Ching's problems continue to pile up. He cannot pay the contractor renovating their apartment and faces legal threats. Soon after, Smart calls with another crisis. The daughter of the restaurant owner they frequently visit claims that she is pregnant with Smart's child, and her father is demanding that he marry her. Ching, already overwhelmed with debt and relationship issues, refuses to help. His relationship with Mandy remains strained after the locker room misunderstanding. At that moment, Pai appears at Ching's door, leaving him shocked. Hearing a female voice, Ching assumes it's the landlady and drags Pai inside. Pai asks to become his disciple. Ching quickly invents a high training fee. Before they can settle anything, someone knocks again. Ching hides and tells Pai to help him dismiss the landlady. The person at the door turns out to be the restaurant owner's daughter, who has run away from home and plans to elope with Smart. While they talk, the phone rings. Ching assumes it is Choo-Choo's father and asks her to answer, but she refuses. Pai picks up instead. The caller turns out to be Mandy. Ching quickly grabs the phone and tries to smooth things over. Mandy asks if the visitor is the man from the tournament. Ching denies it and claims it is only a male friend. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Choo-Choo and Ching scramble to hide, leaving Pai to face whoever is at the door. It is the landlady. She barges in, searching the house. She finds Choo-Choo in the bathtub. The landlady is also Choo-Choo's foster mother and is furious to see her there. She threatens to inform her father and storms out. Moments later, Choo-Choo's father arrives. He heads straight for the bathroom and finds Pai in the tub. He immediately assumes Ching is involved with men. To avoid being forced into marriage, Ching plays along and claims he is hiding a secret. He says he is gay, hoping the man will leave. He does not realize Mandy is standing there and hears everything. Flustered, Ching pleads that it's a misunderstanding, insisting the person in the tub isn't a man. The man angrily drags the person from the tub and is shocked to discover he's holding his daughter. Pi steps out and Mandy recognizes him. The confusion deepens. At this point, it seems the gods are conspiring against Ching. Smart walks in. Ching, relieved, asks him to clear things up. Instead, Smart makes another joke at his expense and disappears. Ching finally gives up trying to explain. That night, he drinks heavily over losing Mandy. Pi stays by his side and tries to comfort him. On the way home, Ching and Pi are ambushed by Wan, the late Wai's brother, and his gang. Ching fights back but is outnumbered. He lands a powerful strike with his right fist, but more men arrive and bind his arm with metal wires. Wan seizes the moment and beats him down, threatening to kill him slowly. A masked woman suddenly appears and attacks Wan's gang. They retreat but vow to return. Exhausted and injured, Ching takes refuge at Pi's home. When Pi steps out to get water, his cousin Yuan, who hadn't met him yet, enters. She resembles Mandy closely. Mistaking Ching for Pi, she runs to hug him. Half-conscious, Ching believes she is Mandy and holds her before collapsing. Pi's aunt, Chat, arrives and corrects the confusion. Ching's injuries are severe, but Chat treats him. Fearing for his life, she performs an old healing ritual she once abandoned. The ritual works. Ching wakes up strong. He soon realizes Pi's aunt is the masked fighter who saved him, even though she had disguised herself as a man. He asks her to train him in kung fu, but she denies knowing any martial arts. Later, Pi tells Chat that he intends to court and marry Yuan. Unknown to him, Yuan is completely fascinated with Ching. The following morning, Chat wakes with a severe hangover after drinking too much during a game with Ching. She secretly uses kung fu techniques to force the alcohol out of her system. Later, the wind blows her scarf onto a tree, and she quietly retrieves it using martial arts. Ching catches her in the act, but she still denies knowing any kung fu, claiming he's drunk. Suspicious, Ching later informs Pi that Chat may be hiding her martial arts skills. Curious, the two decide to test her. During lunch, Pi suddenly punches Chat, expecting her to instinctively defend herself with kung fu, but she does nothing, and the punch lands directly on her face. Pi is horrified and immediately regrets hurting his aunt, but Ching remains unconvinced. He proposes another test. He will pretend to assault her to see whether she'll defend herself with kung fu. Shortly afterward, Mandy arrives looking for Ching. Meanwhile, Ching enters Chat's room and pretends to assault her. Realizing she is being tested, Chat reacts like an ordinary woman. Pi and Yuan secretly watch from outside the window. At that moment, Mandy walks in and sees Ching appearing to assault Chat. Furious, she calls him an animal. Ching, thinking she is Yuan, casually agrees with the insult. By the time he realizes the mistake, Mandy has already stormed out. Elsewhere, Wan and his gang continue to monitor Ching. They intensify their martial arts training, preparing for what they believe will eventually become a deadly confrontation. One evening, Yuan confronts Ching while he is bathing, demanding to know why he does not return her feelings. Ching explains that Pi is in love with her and would be deeply hurt if he discovered the truth. Determined, Yuan decides she will speak directly to Pi and confess that her heart belongs to someone else. The next morning, Ching attempts to leave quietly to avoid further complications, but Pi catches him trying to slip away. Ching claims he has caused too many problems and wants to depart, yet Pi refuses to take him seriously. Instead, he reveals that he secretly took Yuan's diary and suggests they read it together. As Pi reads aloud, Ching becomes anxious, fearing that his name might appear inside. Fortunately, the diary doesn't mention his name. After Pi leaves, Ching attempts to escape again. This time, Yuan intercepts him and invites him to her room, claiming that Pi wishes to speak with him there. Once inside, Ching realizes he has been tricked. Yuan locks the door and attempts to convince him, but Ching firmly explains that his heart belongs to Mandy, and that Pi truly loves her, urging her to accept Pi instead. At that moment, Pi knocks on the door, forcing Ching to hide inside a wardrobe. While Pi speaks with Yuan, he notices the wardrobe shaking and becomes suspicious. He pulls it open, causing a container of white powder to fall directly into his eyes. Unable to see, he mistakenly grabs Ching, believing he is holding Yuan. With his eyes still closed, Pi begins expressing his heartfelt feelings. admitting that even if she chooses someone else, he will still wish for her happiness. Hearing this sincere confession softens Yuen's heart, and she finally accepts his proposal. Overjoyed, Pai hugs the person he believes is Yuen, still unaware that he is embracing Qing. Soon after, Chat arrives and Pai excitedly announces that he is getting married. Misunderstanding the situation, Chat believes he intends to marry Qing and faints from the shock. When she regains consciousness, she learns the truth and is excited. After Pai and Yuen step outside, Qing tells Chat that he knows she was the one who secretly saved him that night and asks why she refuses to teach Pai kung fu. Chat finally admits. She explains that Pai's father died after becoming entangled in too many martial conflicts, and she fears that if Pai learns kung fu, he may suffer the same fate. Qing hears Smart's voice coming from the sitting room. They walk in to meet him, and the moment Smart sees Chat, he becomes instantly attracted to her and begins displaying exaggerated chivalry. At that moment, Wan and his men storm into the house. Chat and Qing immediately prepare to fight, while Smart quietly steps aside. Wan asks Chat not to interfere and demands that Qing be handed over, but she refuses. The situation escalates when they discover that Wan's men have already abducted Pai and Yuen. Determined not to drag others into his personal conflict, Qing tells Chat she has already done enough for him and decides to surrender himself peacefully. The moment he steps forward, Wan launches an attack. Chat instantly intervenes, and the two engage in a fierce martial arts clash. Their relentless exchange of blows and kicks reveals the full extent of Chat's combat skills, leaving Qing and Pai astonished. During the fight, Wan manages to land a heavy kick to Chat's stomach. Seeing her in danger, Smart pulls out a gun and threatens Wan, but trying anything funny would put Pai and Yuen at risk. Wan then changes tactics. He announces that he will release the hostages only if Qing appears at the upcoming boxing tournament, where they will settle their conflict in the ring. With that, Wan's men leave, taking Pai and Yuen with them. Understanding the urgency, Chat decides to train Qing personally using the Ngu family martial arts. With the tournament only a week away and Qing's injured arm not fully healed, she introduces him to a rare and almost forgotten technique known as the electric fist. She explains that the technique originated when a legendary warrior from their lineage once absorbed the power of lightning into his fist. Believing Qing's naturally strong arm might make the technique possible, she attempts to recreate the phenomenon using an electric machine. The training sessions are rough, and repeated attempts only leave Qing painfully electrocuted, with no visible result. Meanwhile, Smart continues to pursue Chat with exaggerated acts of chivalry, constantly hovering around her and protecting her. Over time, his persistence begins to soften her attitude. One day, she dresses unusually elegantly and heads to a nearby stream to meet Qing, clearly hoping he will notice and compliment her. Qing remains completely oblivious. In frustration, she pushes him into the water. When she reaches out to help him up, she suddenly feels a strong electric shock. The experiment has finally worked. The technique activates when Qing's arm becomes wet. To confirm it, she asks him to strike her with his right fist. The electric force discharges successfully, proving that the electric fist is now functional. Slightly shaken from the test, she jokingly asks him to try the technique on Smart, who has just arrived. The strike sends Smart flying backward, completely fried by the electric shock. Realizing he is finally equipped to face Wan, Qing excitedly hugs Chat, ready for the coming battle. The day of the tournament finally arrives. Wan enters the arena with overwhelming confidence, carrying a portrait of his late brother, Y, and presenting himself as if he is already victorious. When a journalist attempts to photograph the portrait, Wan angrily kicks the man aside, shocking the crowd and heightening anticipation for the match. Before stepping into the ring, Wan bows respectfully to the portrait of his brother. Nearby, Qing quietly prepares by washing his hands, keeping them wet so the electric fist can remain active. However, the charge only lasts for about a minute, so he needs to act quickly. Both fighters step into the ring, ready to begin, but the referee interrupts to restate the rules. Unfortunately, the referee struggles with a stammer, and by the time the explanation ends, 1 minute has already expired. Wan launches forward, but Qing focuses on evasion, repeatedly dodging attacks and even pretending to collapse. He jumps in and out of the ring, forcing Juan to chase him around until the first round ends without any exchange. During the break, Chat and Smart rush over with a bucket of water. Ching deeps his hands, restoring the electric charge. As the second round begins, Ching immediately strikes. His charged fist connects, sending Juan flying backward with a powerful electric shock. Juan struggles to stand, his hair stiff and burnt from the impact. When Ching advances again, Juan retreats out of the ring, drawing loud boos from the audience. Embarrassed, he eventually returns, but his confidence is shaken. Even when the referee positions the fighters face-to-face, Juan hesitates to attack. Recognizing the psychological advantage, Ching steps forward and taunts him. Their standoff confuses both spectators and judges. Another break is called. Juan demands that they exchange water buckets, threatening that his men will harm Pai and Yuan if they refuse. When the bucket is handed to him, he plunges his hand inside, only to be shocked by the lingering electrical charge. Ching quickly moves in to attack while Juan's body is still weakened. However, Juan soon recovers, retaliates with brutal force, and knocks Ching across the arena. The blow sends Ching crashing into a decorative lighting fixture, triggering another surge of electricity. For a moment, the crowd believes he has been killed, and Juan celebrates. Then Ching suddenly emerges, laughing. The additional surge has amplified his abilities. Now charged with even greater power, he unleashes a combination of electric strikes and fiery blasts, overwhelming Juan completely. The final attack sends Juan flying out of the arena and into the street, driving him mad. Smart and the others celebrate wildly as the crowd erupts in excitement. At that moment, Mandy rushes into the ring. Ching embraces her in excitement, but the lingering electric charge shocks her, sending his friends into uncontrollable laughter as the scene closes. Again, Ching earns more than another victory. He discovers that true power lies in unity, loyalty, and family, even when not bound by blood. And that's how a man who had to electrocute himself just to survive turned lightning into victory. Ching didn't just defeat Juan. He outsmarted him, outlasted him, and finally stopped holding back, from dodging punches while the clock ran out, to soaking his hands in water like a human battery, to getting supercharged by a lighting fixture and walking back into the ring laughing. This wasn't just a fight. It was pure, chaotic, old-school kung fu madness. And in the end, Ching didn't just win the match. He proved that power isn't about revenge. It's about protecting the people who stood by you when everything else fell apart. If you enjoyed this recap, hit that like button. It seriously helps push these classic Hong Kong gems to more people. Make sure you subscribe, because we're diving into more insane martial arts tournaments, ridiculous misunderstandings, and legendary final fights just like this. And tell me in the comments, would you risk getting electrocuted for power like that? Or are you taking your chances the normal way? I'll see you in the next fight.